Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Young and the Restless channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The city of Genoa City breathes with a quiet, uneasy tension as another storm begins to gather just beneath its polished surface. And on this particular Thursday, May 7th, the calm is about to shatter in ways no one sees coming. Out of the shadows, Matt Clark emerges once more, drawn back to a place that feels both hauntingly familiar and deeply unsettling, guided only by a single fragile clue: the GCAC keycard clutched in his hand like a lifeline to a past he cannot remember. There's something almost tragic in the way he moves through the world now, as if he's chasing fragments of a life that refuses to come into focus. And yet his return promises to ignite old rivalries and buried secrets that Genoa City has long tried to forget. Meanwhile, far from the mystery surrounding Matt, another thread of tension tightens as Phyllis Summers begins to sense that something is deeply wrong with Nick Newman, her instincts sharpening with every passing moment. The air between them feels heavier, charged with unspoken fears, as if the truth is lingering just out of reach, waiting for the right moment to break through. And as these separate paths begin to inch closer together, it becomes clear that the day ahead will be anything but ordinary. Elsewhere, Kane Ashby stands at a crossroads defined by desperation and determination. His voice steady, but his heart weighed down by everything that has already gone wrong. He turns to Lily Winters with a quiet intensity, promising her that no matter the obstacles, no matter the chaos that has surrounded him, including the looming shadow of his recent arrest, he will not fail when it comes to Malcolm Winters and the bone marrow donation that could mean the difference between life and death. There's something deeply human in his resolve, a fierce refusal to let circumstances dictate the outcome, and he makes it clear that he is willing to move heaven and earth to honor the promises he has made. Lily listens, caught between doubt and hope, her emotions flickering like a candle in the wind as she tries to believe in the man standing before her. The weight of Malcolm's fate presses down on both of them, turning every word into something heavier, something more urgent, as if time itself is slipping through their fingers. And in that fragile moment, the future hangs in the balance, shaped by trust, fear, and the relentless need to hold on to hope. At the same time, Nick Newman's struggle unfolds in a far more private, yet equally devastating way. His battle with addiction, leaving visible cracks in the strong exterior he once carried so effortlessly. When Phyllis finally sees him, the shock is impossible to hide, her concern rising instantly as she takes in his worn appearance and the subtle signs that something is terribly off. She presses him gently but persistently, searching for answers. And while Nick offers fragments of the truth, hinting at a troubling encounter involving Matt Clark in Las Vegas, there's a clear sense that he's holding back the darkest parts of his experience. The mention of Matt's supposed death after a final confrontation with Sienna Bacall sends a ripple of disbelief through Phyllis, especially as uncertainty begins to cloud even that narrative. Beneath it all, Phyllis feels it in her gut. There's more to this story, something dangerous and unresolved, something Nick isn't ready to face out loud. And as she watches him, torn between wanting to protect him and needing the truth, the distance between them grows heavier with every unspoken word. But the truth, as it so often does, refuses to stay buried, and Matt Clark's return to Genoa City is about to turn everything upside down. When he steps into the familiar yet foreign halls of the athletic club, the weight of his confusion becomes impossible to ignore. His eyes searching every corner as if the walls themselves might whisper answers back to him. The key card is his only connection to a life he can't recall, and with quiet urgency, he seeks help, hoping that someone, anyone, can tell him who he is. There is no deception in his struggle, no hidden agenda behind his lost memories, at least not yet. The amnesia is real, raw, and disorienting, leaving him vulnerable in a city filled with people who have every reason to fear or despise him. And yet, there's a lingering sense that being back in these familiar places, surrounded by faces tied to his past, could awaken something buried deep within his mind, fragments of memory waiting for the right trigger to rise to the surface. Still, the possibility lingers that this fragile truth could one day twist into something far more calculated. that Matt might eventually choose to use his condition as a weapon rather than a weakness. As the day unfolds, the looming presence of the Newman family casts a long shadow over Matt's fragile return, their history with him far too volatile to ignore. The moment they realize he's back, the tension will ignite instantly, turning confusion into confrontation and uncertainty into chaos. For Matt, already struggling to understand his own identity, being thrust into the center of such hostility could prove overwhelming, a storm he is wholly unprepared to face. Every step he takes deeper into Genoa City pulls him closer to truths he may not be ready to accept, while the people around him brace for the impact of a past that refuses to stay buried. And as all these lives begin to collide, Phyllis's growing fear, Nick's hidden battle, Kane's desperate promises, and Matt's fractured identity, the city itself seems to hold its breath, waiting for the moment when everything finally explodes into the open. The tension doesn't simply linger, it deepens, stretching across Genoa City like a gathering storm that refuses to break all at once, choosing instead to tighten its grip on every soul caught in its path. Inside the athletic club, Matt Clark drifts through the space with a quiet, disoriented urgency, his fingers brushing against the edges of the keycard as though it might suddenly unlock not just a door, but the truth of who he is. Every face he passes feels like it should mean something, every glance laced with a strange familiarity that he cannot place, and yet, the harder he tries to remember, the more the memories slip away like smoke through his hands. There is a growing unease in the air around him, subtle at first, but unmistakable, as whispers begin to spread, as eyes begin to linger, as recognition starts to dawn in the people who once knew him all too well. For them, Matt is not a mystery to be solved, but a threat that has returned, a ghost of chaos walking back into their lives without warning. And for Matt, who stands at the center of it all without understanding why, the confusion begins to twist into something more dangerous, a quiet desperation that could easily tip into panic if pushed too far. Not far away, Phyllis Summers finds herself unable to shake the gnawing feeling in her chest, the kind of instinct that has guided her through countless storms, but now leaves her more unsettled than ever. Watching Nick Newman unravel in front of her is not something she can accept easily, especially when she knows, deep down, that what he's showing her is only a fraction of the truth. His words about Las Vegas, about Matt, about the supposed final confrontation with Sienna Bacall, they all feel incomplete, like pieces of a puzzle that refuse to fit together no matter how hard she tries. And then there's the way he looks, the exhaustion etched into every line of his face, the subtle tremor beneath his composure that speaks of a battle far more personal and far more dangerous than he's willing to admit. Phyllis presses him again, her voice softer now but edged with urgency, searching his eyes for something real, something honest. But Nick deflects just enough to keep her at a distance. It's in that moment that fear truly takes hold, because Phyllis realizes she may be watching someone she cares about slip into a darkness she cannot reach. Meanwhile, Kane Ashby's determination becomes something almost unbreakable, forged in the fire of everything he stands to lose if he fails. His promise to Lily Winters is no longer just words, it's a mission, a line he refuses to let anyone cross, no matter the consequences. Despite the shadow of his arrest still hanging over him, despite the doubt that lingers in Lily's eyes, Kane pushes forward with a relentless focus, channeling every ounce of his strength into ensuring that Malcolm Winters gets the bone marrow donation that could save his life. There is a quiet intensity in the way he carries himself now, a sense that nothing, not the law, not the past, not even his own mistakes, will stop him from seeing this through. Lily watches him carefully, her heart caught in a painful tug-of-war between believing in him and protecting herself from being let down again. The stakes are too high for blind faith, and yet the sincerity in Kane's resolve makes it impossible for her to completely turn away. In that fragile space between doubt and hope, their connection hangs by a thread, one that could either be strengthened by this fight or shattered by it. Back at the athletic club, the moment of calm finally fractures as recognition turns into confrontation, And Matt Clark finds himself face to face with the consequences of a past he cannot remember. The arrival of the Newman family shifts the atmosphere instantly, their presence commanding, their emotions anything but subtle as they lock onto the man they believed was gone for good. For them, this is not a miracle or a mystery. It's a threat resurfacing, a danger that must be addressed before it spirals out of control again. But for Matt, the hostility hits like a wave he cannot brace against, their accusations and anger colliding with his blank confusion in a way that leaves him visibly shaken. He tries to explain, tries to make them understand that he doesn't know who they think he is, that whatever history they share with him is locked behind a wall he cannot break through. Yet the more he insists, the more it seems to fuel their suspicion, because in a world like this, innocence is rarely taken at face value. And as voices rise and emotions clash, something begins to stir deep within Matt's mind. Not a full memory, not yet, but a flicker, a fragment, a sensation that feels too real to ignore. It's fleeting, gone almost as quickly as it appears, but it leaves behind a chilling realization. The past is not as lost as he thought. Whether it returns in pieces or all at once, whether it brings clarity or chaos, one thing is certain. This fragile state of not knowing cannot last forever. And when the truth finally breaks through, it won't just change Matt's world. It will send shockwaves through everyone connected to him. In Genoa City, where secrets never stay buried and every action carries consequences, the stage is set for a collision of past and present that will leave no one untouched. The confrontation doesn't end. It lingers, crackling with unresolved fury as the walls of the athletic club seem to close in around Matt Clark and the people who now stand against him. The Newmans' presence is unwavering, their suspicions sharpening with every word Matt speaks. And yet, there's something deeply unsettling about the way he holds his ground, not with defiance, but with a kind of fractured sincerity that feels impossible to fake. His voice carries the weight of confusion rather than manipulation, his eyes searching their faces not for weakness, but for recognition, for any spark that might help him piece together the shattered remains of his identity. And still, the doubt in the room refuses to fade, because history has taught them all that Matt is not a man to be trusted, not a man whose intentions can ever be taken at face value. The tension thickens with every passing second, until it becomes clear that this moment is not about finding the truth. It's about deciding what to believe in the absence of it. And for Matt, standing in the center of it all, the realization begins to settle in that the answers he seeks may come at a cost far greater than he's prepared to pay. Across town, Phyllis Summers finds herself caught in a storm of her own, one that feels far more personal and far more immediate than anything unfolding at the club. Nick Newman's condition continues to weigh heavily on her mind, each memory of his tired expression and guarded words replaying in a relentless loop she cannot escape. There's a growing urgency inside her now, a need to act before whatever he's hiding pulls him further out of reach. And yet she hesitates, torn between confronting him more directly or risking pushing him away entirely. The fragments of the story he shared, Las Vegas, Matt, the supposed final showdown with Sienna Bacall, only deepen her unease, especially as the pieces refuse to form a coherent picture. It's not just what Nick said that troubles her, but what he didn't say, the silences that spoke louder than any explanation ever could. And as her instincts continue to warn her that something is dangerously off, Phyllis begins to realize that this may be one of those moments where waiting is no longer an option. If she wants the truth, if she wants to protect him, she may have to step into the darkness he's been trying so hard to keep hidden. Meanwhile, Kane Ashby's quiet battle transforms into something far more urgent, his determination now tested by the mounting pressure of time and circumstance. Every step he takes feels like it carries the weight of Malcolm Winter's life, every decision echoing with the knowledge that failure is simply not an option. The promise he made to Lily Winters has become his anchor, the one thing keeping him steady as everything else threatens to spiral out of control. And yet, even as he pushes forward with unwavering resolve, there are moments, brief, fleeting moments, where doubt threatens to creep in, whispering that the obstacles ahead may be too great, that the damage already done may be impossible to overcome. Lily sees it too, that flicker of vulnerability beneath his strength, and it stirs something deep within her, a complicated mix of fear, empathy, and a hope she's almost afraid to embrace. Their connection, strained and uncertain, now feels tied to something much bigger than either of them, something that could redefine not only their relationship, but the lives of everyone involved. And in that fragile balance, every choice matters more than ever before. Back at the athletic club, the fragile thread holding the situation together finally begins to strain as emotions reach a breaking point, and the past refuses to stay silent any longer. Matt's confusion intensifies, not fading but evolving, as those fleeting flashes in his mind begin to return with slightly more clarity, like fragments of a shattered mirror slowly piecing themselves back together. A face, a voice, a moment, each one gone almost as quickly as it arrives, but leaving behind a deeper sense of unease, as if the truth lurking beneath his amnesia is far more dangerous than the emptiness he's been living with. The Newmans watch him closely, their skepticism now mixed with something else, something closer to anticipation, as though they're waiting for the mask to slip, for the man they remember to reemerge. And perhaps, in some quiet, unspoken way, they're right to wait. Because something is changing within Matt, something subtle but undeniable. Whether it's the beginning of his memories returning or the first step towards something more calculated, more controlled, remains unclear. But the shift is there, impossible to ignore. As the day edges toward its inevitable conclusion, Genoa City feels different, as though the very air has been altered by the collisions unfolding within it. Phyllis stands on the edge of a decision that could either bring her closer to Nick or push him further away than ever before. Kane continues his relentless fight, refusing to let circumstances dictate the fate of Malcolm Winters, even as the pressure threatens to consume him. And at the center of it all, Matt Clark remains a man caught between two versions of himself, the one he cannot remember and the one everyone else refuses to forget. The lines between truth and deception, past and present, victim and villain, begin to blur, leaving behind a landscape where nothing is certain and no one is truly safe. And just beneath the surface, one undeniable truth waits to emerge. Whatever happens next will not simply resolve the chaos, it will redefine it, setting the stage for consequences that will echo far beyond this single, unforgettable day. As night begins to settle over Genoa City, the lingering chaos of the day doesn't fade. It deepens, sinking into the quiet corners of every life it has touched, refusing to loosen its grip. Inside the athletic club, the confrontation reaches a tense, fragile stalemate. But the silence that follows feels far more dangerous than the shouting that came before it. Matt Clark stands there, caught between suspicion and disbelief, his breathing uneven as the weight of everything presses down on him at once. The faces around him are no longer just strangers. They are reflections of a past that seems to know him far better than he knows himself. And that realization cuts deeper with every passing second. He tries to hold on to the only truth he has, the emptiness in his mind, the undeniable absence of memory that defines his every step. But even that begins to feel uncertain as those flickers return, sharper now, more insistent. There is something buried inside him, something pushing against the walls of his consciousness, and the fear that it might break through at any moment is almost as overwhelming as not knowing at all. The Newmans don't back down, their presence unyielding as they watch him with a mixture of anger, caution, and something far more complicated beneath the surface. They have seen too much, endured too much, to accept this version of Matt without question. And yet, there's a hesitation there. A crack in their certainty that they can't quite ignore. Because if this confusion is real, if the man standing before them truly doesn't remember, then everything changes in ways none of them are prepared to face. Still, trust is a luxury they cannot afford, and the tension between them holds steady, stretched to its breaking point as unspoken decisions begin to form behind guarded expressions. Matt feels it, that shift in the air, that silent judgment being passed without his understanding, and it leaves him standing on unstable ground, unsure whether the next moment will bring answers or consequences. In a city like this, where history defines everything, Being forgotten may be the most dangerous position of all. Across town, Phyllis Summers reaches the end of her hesitation, her instincts finally outweighing her fear of pushing too hard. The image of Nick Newman, tired, guarded, and clearly struggling, refuses to leave her mind. And she knows she can't simply stand by and hope things will resolve on their own. There's a determination in her now, a quiet but powerful resolve to get through to him, no matter how uncomfortable the truth might be. When she finds him again, the atmosphere shifts instantly, the air thick with everything that's been left unsaid between them. This time, she doesn't soften her approach, doesn't dance around the edges of the conversation. She asks the questions that matter, the ones that demand real answers. And for a brief moment, Nick falters, the carefully constructed walls around him showing cracks that are impossible to hide. It's in that moment that the truth threatens to surface, not all at once, but enough to confirm what Phyllis has feared all along, that his struggle is deeper, darker, and far more dangerous than he's been willing to admit. Meanwhile, Kane Ashby's fight reaches a critical turning point where determination alone is no longer enough to guarantee success. The obstacles in his path grow steeper, the pressure more intense, and yet he refuses to step back, refuses to accept any outcome where Malcolm Winters doesn't get the chance to survive. Every conversation, every effort, every risk he takes is driven by that singular purpose, and it begins to reshape not only how others see him, but how Lily Winters sees him as well. There's a shift in her perspective now, subtle but undeniable, as she watches the lengths he's willing to go, the sacrifices he's prepared to make. The doubt that once defined her stance begins to soften, replaced by something more fragile, more hopeful, though still guarded by the fear of being disappointed again. Their shared focus on Malcolm creates a fragile bridge between them, one built not on past promises, but on present actions. And for the first time, it feels like something real might emerge from the uncertainty. But even in that growing connection, the stakes remain painfully high, and the possibility of failure looms over everything like an unspoken warning. Back at the club, the final moments of the night bring a shift that no one can ignore, as Matt's fragile state begins to tilt towards something far more unstable. Another flash hits him, stronger this time, more vivid, and it stops him cold, stealing the breath from his lungs as a fragment of memory forces its way to the surface. It's not enough to give him clarity, not enough to answer the questions that have been haunting him, but it's enough to change everything, because now he knows that the past is still there, waiting. The look in his eyes changes, just slightly, but enough for those watching to notice, enough to send a ripple of unease through the room. Is this the beginning of his memories returning, or something else entirely? Something more calculated, more dangerous? Even Matt doesn't know the answer, but the shift is undeniable, and it marks the end of whatever fragile neutrality once existed. And as the night closes in, wrapping Genoa City in a deceptive calm, it becomes clear that this is only the beginning of something much larger, something far more explosive than anyone is ready for. Phyllis stands on the edge of a truth that could either save Nick or shatter him completely. Kane continues to push forward, his resolve stronger than ever, even as the risks grow greater with every step. And Matt Clark, caught between the man he was and the man he is now, begins to move closer to a revelation that will change everything. The lines have been drawn, the tension set, and the quiet before the storm has never felt more intense. Because when everything finally comes to light, there will be no turning back.